Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Wallace. I'm a trader and coach at Trading Beliefs, but I'm also the founder of the London Traders Network. Moose has invited me here today to talk about a particular currency pair that I'm focused on at the moment, and that is the Australian dollar versus the New Zealand dollar. So if we quickly go to my first slide, what we'll see there is that when I've been on here in the past talking with Moose and such, is that, in terms of FX markets, I'm always particularly looking to sort of buy strength and sell weakness. It's very, very simple, but I just tend to find that it helps keep me on the right side of the tracks more often than not. And so even though I have these days, a nice plug into my trading platforms that actually can work that out for myself, I still find that on a Sunday evening, I sit down for an hour and actually sit through and go through and work this out myself. And here is just a snapshot of the matrix that I put together for myself every, as I said, every Sunday. And hopefully you can see that at the moment what we're seeing is a bit of a divergent path between the sort of Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. So, I'm looking at those 8 major FX pairs, and pretty much all the way through 2019, Aussie dollar has been the sort of the low of the low, okay? It's been 8 out of 8. Whereas the sort of Kiwi dollar has, over the last 6 weeks or so, has continued to strengthen, okay, and has actually been knocking about in the sort of the first and the second spot. It's presently second because sterling has had a little bit of a rally, okay, based upon what we saw happen here in the UK last week. But the reality is, sterling at the moment is it's a little bit all in the lap of the gods. But what want to focus on is effectively what we've seen is Australian dollar weakness and Kiwi dollar strength. Now, of course, what we can talk about is that Australian dollar is very closely linked to what's been going on in China. It's had a fantastic boom, but if you've been keeping an eye on global markets and just invariably on the news, what we've seen is started to see some of the news coming out of Australia that has been, let's say, less than impressive in terms of things like house sales, retail sales, car sales. There's clearly a little bit of strain and tension. That is actually following through into the Royal Bank of Australia in terms of their commentary has been more about they foresee the possibility of rate cuts happening sooner there than in New Zealand. And in fact, what we're seeing is markets have priced in probably at least the next 2 RBA cuts. So of course, as I'm a trader and I want to see how I can turn that into a plan. So if we go to my next slide. What we've got here, hopefully, as you can see, is this is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar on a monthly chart, and we can see that actually, right there up on the far left, we've had a sort of a bit of a picture of Aussie weakness and Kiwi strength over the last few years. I look at that realistically as as a bit of a sort of a scruffy descending triangle in a in a downtrend. That would imply were that to sort of break that kind of parity level at around about 1. Well, then invariably we could be in for into sort of new territory in terms of the move there. Hopefully you can see there that we sort of we touched back down towards parity, okay, a good few years ago. Then with the sort of flash crash, the Chinese flash crash we had at the start of 2019, we had an element of that as well, where we got down towards there. But hopefully, if we go on to the next slide and we go into the take a look at the weekly chart, hopefully you can see there realistically for about the last 6 months in the weekly chart that has just been in a in a very nice downtrend. Looking at last week's chart pattern, we had a bit of a rejection candle there at the spot .03, 103 level, and I'm kind of curious to see how that could be turned into a trade plan for myself. All right, is it a case of where I like to trade? I like to trade pullbacks, so I'd actually like to see will we bounce off 103 up to around about that 104.50 level, okay, which would be around about where the weekly 20 MA is, and then I'll be looking to see could we get a bearish rejection and sort of then move back down towards that 103 level. And if we look at the next chart, which is my daily chart, I've just drawn in there that level about 104.50 as a zone there. As I said, I'd like to see could we have a little bit of a bounce off that 103. That gets us up, as I said, to where the weekly 20, the daily 50 is there. Then I'll be looking to see would there be the possibility of bearish rejection candles there. That would give me the opportunity to sort of enter short on the pullback, racing down towards that 103 level there again. Then that would be my first inflection point to making a decision on whether to stay with the trade or ride based upon the price action and how and what the market actually gives me. So just something there to look at over the next few days and weeks, and just to keep an eye and add to your watch list. Final slide, as always, is that, as I said, I'm the founder of the London Traders Network, and I always say when I'm on these slots that if you disagree with my analysis, then why don't you come down and have a conversation with me? I'm always eager to hear other people's views. As a trader, it helps sharpen my own edge. So for those of you who don't know, London Traders Network, we have 6 social events a year. Okay, the next one is actually this evening, and then the next one after that will be Wednesday, the 15th of May. Normally in a sort of cellar bar of the New Moon off Grace Church Street. We don't care really if you've been trading for 2 weeks or 2 decades. It's more about just come and have a bit of a beer with your tribe and chat about trading. Thanks very much for joining us, and I wish you all the best in your own trading.